And welcome back to another video. We're still talking about angels and demons and your experiences and what people have seen or possibly seen, think they've seen. So here we go. Since being a skeptic is in my nature, and I believe rightfully so, can't really say whether the dream I am going to tell you about had any influence of God, or is just something I made up subconsciously. I like to believe that it was God, and even if it is largely my subconscious, I believe God can act through that as well. So it goes like this. Me and some friends of mine, I knew they were friends, but I didn't know exactly who they were. Right? It was a pretty big, transparent glass-like building tower with multiple floors. And I can't exactly remember the floor count, but I think it might have been 3 floors. We were on the second. Again, my memory might have shifted the dream contents. We were sitting at a dinner table, and there was rice and other foods. And when we ran out of rice, or whatever it was, I would take the bowl and go upstairs where God was to ask for more. Before climbing to the last step, I bowed down, expressing my gratitude. And there it goes fuzzy again. I think there were these 3 people symbolizing the Trinity, and it could as well just been 2 or 1. Father, there was definitely. Jesus was very likely and Holy Spirit, not entirely sure. So I asked them to fill the bowl, and they did, and I would climb back down to share with my friends. I did this more than once, and from the top floor and the top staircase step before the top floor was glowing yellowish, sunnish, goldish stuff. It might have been a product of my own imagination, but it was a very nice product then. That's cool. Next story. The winter of my freshman year in college, I was seriously physically ill with a penicillin-resistant infection that caused me to double up in pain often. I was battling mental illness as well. It was my first year in this upper Midwest, and it was the coldest winter in 10 years in the area. I was coming from the Southwest desert, where it rarely gets very cold. I had suffered through a couple of frostbitten toes, and already that winter I had mild Raynaud's. I don't know what that is, but okay, somebody does. I just learned that I had a chronic injury that could impact the activity I loved to do so much forever. I was struggling to fit in the college and I was attending, and every day I cried for hours because my classes were really hard for me. I wanted to die. I prayed to die every day. One night I had a dream in which I woke up in the morning and the snow was melting. There were flowers. The sun was out. Everything was beautiful. I walked to class in the dream and sat down at my desk. The young man sitting next to me turned to me in the dream and told me, God told me to tell you that the snow will melt. I was confused, and the young man repeated the words. In my dream, I remember being surprised and realizing it was an angel. When I woke up right after that, I instantly felt better. I kept repeating the words to myself for the rest of that winter. That's the only time I've been sure that a dream was from God. And someone replies with, He was always involved in our lives as he was in that moment. His word is as effective as those words bespoken to you. He is an ever-present help in time of need. He will never let you go. Okay, there you go. So this next one identifies himself as a Roman Catholic. I don't know if that matters, but here we go. I was a little kid. My friends and I crossed the street to get ice cream from an ice cream truck. Normally, this road doesn't have much traffic. I got ice cream and stupidly began crossing the street from the back of the truck. A truck was speeding my way, and I had to be 10 to 15 feet away from me. Time just froze, and so did I. I saw the truck, and then I felt and saw 2 hands guiding me across to the other side of the road. I believe it was an angel. I couldn't make out the face, but it had to be. They protected your life. That's cool. Next story. I've seen an angel. I was 11 years old. They're in their 30s now, but never doubted what happened. I was asleep in my room when I woke up in the middle of the night from bright shining light shining through my room's curtains. Our street didn't have any street lights, so we had these tall trees lining the front of the house in the street. I knew this light wasn't normal. Initially, I was terrified and lay as still as I could for what felt like 10 minutes. Eventually, I mustered the courage to go and satisfy my growing curiosity and make my way out of the bed and towards the window as quietly as I could. I positioned myself against the wall next to the window and pulled back the curtain just a little. Then I saw him, a very big, tall figure wearing long robes looking over our house. The trees I spoke of earlier were taller than the roof of our house, and they took him by at waist height. Huge. The light was radiating from him. I don't remember any facial features or hair, and he didn't have wings. Awestruck, I just went straight to my parents' bedroom and woke them up, telling them of the tall man outside. Mom thought I'd had a bad dream and I got into bed with them and slept further. The next morning I told them the whole story, and they believed me. The experience has definitely changed my life. I can't imagine anything that would beat that angel in a fight. Next story. I saw a demon once when I was a kid. It was a silhouette of something clearly not human. I was standing in my neighbor's driveway. As cheesy as it sounds, it had glowing red eyes, too. I've heard that what I believed were demons. Once I heard an entire family in the hallway talking about how they hated me. I was in my room silently crying about it and decided to walk out and just show them that I heard what they had said about me, and it made me sad. I walked out and no one was there. I looked everywhere. I asked my family about it for years and years later, and none of them knew what I was talking about. They're nice, and I have no reason to believe that I'd actually heard them. Plus, the house we were living at the time had a lot of incidents like this. We were constantly hearing other people walking around, opening doors, the fridge, etc. It's kind of creepy. Sounds like it might be, possessed as well. A little haunted. So the next story is, my story has been typed out many times, but I was saved by something, I assume a guardian angel, when I was little. Nearly got hit by a giant truck. My father saw it himself and couldn't believe his eyes. I just clearly remember being pulled back and feeling this soft hand on my right shoulder. I can still feel it gripping me. Gives me goosebumps. Someone, of course, made a comment as, I danced with the devil in the pale moonlight. If you don't get that, that's a reference to the original Batman movie. With the only real Batman, Michael Keaton. It's a good line, though. Next story. I had a dream where I saw the future, but in the dream there was a black void where the wall should have been. This happened a lot in my dreams, but this is the one I'm very aware of its presence, and it was infinite. It's kind of creepy, too. Next one. I'll share my dream story. Last year, I was overseas and lost a job due to my employer breaking some laws. I had just arrived 10 days prior. They owed me flight money, and I had lost my wallet. I had given up a government job back home, rented out my house, and signed a 1-year contract with these people. Needless to say, I was a bit overwhelmed. I started searching for jobs, but the other employees seemed just as shady as the last. I prayed very hard over my situation, desperate for what I should do, stay or go. I had some drinks, then I just cried and prayed myself to sleep. In a dream, there was nothing but darkness. A disembodied voice, male, deeper than my own, and clear as day, spoke, "Don't worry, everything is going to be all right." The next day, I found a contact which led to a new job in that country. I feel like this was my sign to start trusting and living better. It's been a struggle, but I am improving. I've never had any experience like that, ever. That's pretty good. Sounds like a good one. Next one. I've had a strange array of interactions. When I was young, I first saw a demon. My sister's room was down the hallway, the end of a hallway. I fell asleep on the couch in the living room. I could clearly see down the hallway from this view. I woke up in the night and saw my sister standing in her doorway. I said, "Hey, sis, are you okay?" Then, with a sickening in my stomach, I realized my sister wasn't home that night. She was at a friend's. I went back to sleep. A year or so later, I was asleep in my bed and saw a demon next to my bed. It was a dream demon, so he was in cartoon form. I cried out to Jesus and commanded him to leave. I woke up so suddenly to a figure ducking out of my doorway. No one in my home was that size, so I knew it was evil. I felt Jesus hug me once. Now, I do not believe that Jesus showed up physically, but I believe he shows up for people when they need him in their darkest moments. I was at my low and decided to end my life. I was crying and felt arms encircle me. Immediately said, "Jesus, I need you," and I heard him in a whisper saying, "I am here." I saw a demon get cast out. The man was normal and kind, but during the sermon he started going nuts. All of the leaders of the church surrounded him and prayed. After writhing and moaning, the man gave out a screech, and then he was fine. He had no idea where he was. They took him to the doctor to make sure he was okay. That one's a little freaky. I've heard of things like that. There's things that have happened in similar circumstances that I'm not prepared to talk about here, though. So the next story. This is a story I rarely tell because I feel like people think I'm crazy, but here goes. When I was about 4 years old, my sister had just been born. We had just moved into the house we lived in. For several nights, I would have these night terrors where there was a classic vampire chasing my dad and I through a graveyard. I had no idea what a vampire was. I remember asking my mom what a man with a cape and sharp teeth was. Those same nights, my sister would have trouble sleeping. She would barely sleep at all. One night, while my mom was trying to get my sister to sleep, she prayed that the blood of Jesus Christ would cover the house and keep us protected. That same night, I remember being in my bed and waking up to a light under my bedroom door. I was pretty scared, and then the door opened, and there before me was a really bright light. It was the size of a person, but I couldn't see the source of the light. The light told me that everything would be fine, my sister would sleep fine, and that I would never have those dreams again. We discovered later on the house had a weird history of people using Ouija boards in it, and also being a Hell's Angels base of operations. I only have one night terror since that night, and it was when I found out that one of my friends had dabbled in witchcraft. I told him that he needs to renounce all of that, what he had done, and he just brushed it off. It was no big deal. That night I had a crazy dream of a demon flying in front of me, telling me that if I didn't wake up and go downstairs immediately, my parents would die. I was still living with them at the time. I woke up sweating at 2 a.m. and could barely sleep. I prayed over the house, told my friend that he needed to renounce any of that before we could hang out again. Of course, he thought I was crazy. I remember all these events very vividly, but I have a bad memory. LOL. God is good, and he keeps his promises. I believe that the one night terror I had since it was a way of getting me away from this one person. Next story. My dad's family messed with the Ouija board to try to contact my dead brother. To say the least, something came in. After a bunch of different things, it left us alone for the most part, though it occasionally tries to spook us by turning on off the TV and whatnot. But I'm able not to be scared of it anymore. Just more so annoyed at the shit that it pulls. Yeah. That's why you don't mess with Ouija boards. Next story. This might be late to the party. Well, this is an old post, but so there's a copy and paste from Facebook. Oh, well, let's just get to it. Let's not worry about the edit or anything. Last night, I walked into church. They were having the musicians, and they were playing that night in the worship team, praying for people on the mic at the stage. I came in late to church, so it was the end of the service. After 4 or 5 prayed, they were praying specifically for people who sing or play music. They started to play a jam worship song. I was in the back worshiping, and I heard the choir, and I was like, what? There was a keyboard player playing, and he wasn't playing an angel choir effect. I can tell that he was playing, and it wasn't the type of patch. I'm not quite understanding where this is going, but then I thought that all the people in the congregation were singing, but they can't sing that well in harmony and not put it together. So then I said, wow, these are angels singing. My friend Matt was in the row in front of me, and I asked him, do you hear that? Not telling him what I heard. He said, wait, let me listen. He said it in a way that he could tell that knew what he was talking about. I could tell he heard it, but he didn't realize it until I asked him if he heard it. Yeah, I do hear it, like angels. I kept on worshiping while we were hearing the angels. As I was doing this, a worship leader in my church was singing, and others began to speak from the stage. As this happened, the angels stopped. I asked Matt if he still heard it, and he said no. The lady stopped singing. I heard a low choir, still angelic. Then it went away. Now, while I was hearing the angels in worship, and before the lady was singing, I looked up and noticed V, a friend and singer, up in the balcony taking pictures of the crowd and in my direction. I didn't think anything of it. A little time went on, and I saw her come downstairs and show Elle, the special speaker, the pic she took on her phone. I knew what she saw. She started walking towards the back to where I was and showed me. She had this feeling like she should go up to the balcony and take pictures at a certain spot in the balcony. She took a picture with her camera phone and saw that the picture was hazy. She zoomed in, and the haziness was concentrated in a certain spot. She zoomed in again, and shapes began to take form. She took another picture of me, Matt, and another lady who was behind me. There were shapes, golden bronze shapes, 3 separate shapes, right on top of me, Matt, and the lady behind me. I think my pastor, David, senior pastor, wrote this. I copied and pasted it from the bulletin that Matt put up there, and there's other pics from further back. I'll find them if I can put them up. 2 young men, both musicians, came up to me as the service was closing, visibly shaken. Told me that he stood in the back row of the church worshiping during the time of impartiation. He suddenly began to hear a choir singing in full choral harmony. He looked up to the keyboard player to see if he had to switch to a choir patch, only to realize that what he was hearing was not matching what the keyboard player was doing. He turned to his friend Matt and asked him if he heard anything. As Matt refocused, he could make out singing with partial deep tones that did not seem to be coming from the musicians and singers leading worship. They determined that they were hearing, like the shepherds of the birth of the Christ, an angelic choir. During this time, we noticed that our friend Vanessa taking pictures up on the catwalk of the gym. She walked back to them and excitedly showed them the photographs that she had taken. Directly above Iman, then Matt, seemed to be two pillars of golden light. A third pillar extended near them. What seemed to be so unusual to me is the two shafts of light seemed to go beyond the white and red flag of Chile. What light reflected off a lens, or those simple effects of a dust of a room, create this phenomenon? What were the chances the two people who heard angelic singing were two of the people in the picture, directly under the shafts of light? And is God in such a playful mood that he was used these angelic presence to spell out the word high? Signs that make you wonder. That's a good way to end it. That's an interesting story. Nice to have. I would like to see those pictures, honestly, but that's just me. Thanks for listening. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Do all the things. And we'll see you in the next video. Thanks, and bye.